Greetings! This is Griff Ruby with yet another Isaac Asimov short story. This was his one and only appearance on the pages of Marvel science fiction. Uh, I like this cover a lot. I like the way everybody's kind of hanging from the ground as if gravity just got shut off and inverted, and he's not nailed down like a tree or something, just starts floating off into space. So that kind of makes for a interesting view of things. Marvel itself has a rather unusual history. It first popped into existence in 1938, and over a handful of just a few issues going scattered from there to about 1940. It, after a couple fairly minor issues of no great significance, suddenly somebody got there in the editorial staff got the idea of say, let's just go in really heavy for the raunchy stuff. And the writers, including greats that I like and respect, like Henry Kuttner, complied. And they gave these stories that are just, alien beasts ripping clothes off of nubile girl. It's ridiculous. And worse. I don't know the details. I'm not sure I want to know the details. At any rate, they really went in for this very, very bad. And in about and then about 19, maybe late 59, 60s, 60, somewhere about 1960-ish, of all places, Playboy magazine decided to make fun of old sci-fi magazines, and they featured Marvel because Marvel, well, gave a lot of the kind of stuff Playboy readers would like to get into. I'll leave it at that. But that's a whole other story that goes with another one of Isaac Asimov's story. Asimov's story, by the way, in response to that, is really brilliant and thankfully not all that, whatever. Okay. So, but Marvel had a brief revival in the early 1950s, maybe about half a dozen issues. And for some strange reason, Isaac Asimov was willing to throw a story to them. It's not one of his better stories. That's probably why he put it here. I don't think he even bothered to send it to Astounding or Galaxy or Fantasy and Science Fiction, which, he's already getting articles on the pages, science articles, nonfiction on the pages of Fantasy and Science Fiction by this point. So, but he has his own little story here, and it's listed in the table of contents. The next thing down, Shah Guido G by Isaac Asimov, page 27. They actually list some of these people. Look at this. Imagine they got Bradbury, Asimov, Gulliver, Pratt, Gallen, Vance, 10. Anyway, there's a little blurb connection with this. It says, with its long-range atomic artillery tripled, and this new division of waves to guard it too, the Sky Island would be really safe. Now, there's an interesting little World War II reference here. Waves. Now, during World War II, they actually had sort of this women's, auxiliary volunteer. It stood for something. The waves stood for something. There were these women's group in World War II that I don't know their exact role. Apparently, it wasn't a terribly famous one as we look back, but it was a known role, and women were in this role. And I have had the fortune to be acquainted with one of these women some years back, and who could tell some stories of it, but I don't remember a lot about it now, sadly. But at any rate, there were waves. So we get to page 27. There is a piece of artwork, of course. And here's the story again, the story itself. Shah Guido G by Isaac Asimov. And there's this marvelous little piece of artwork. Some sort of a raised, sort of flat building thing you can see. It's actually about 10 or 20 miles off the ground. There's these rocket ships doing stuff. And in the background, you see all these kind of arrow-shaped flying configurations of these little teardrop-shaped things. Those are the waves. And basically, it draws a little bit. It's sort of like there's a Star Trek episode where you have this city just floating on a cloud in the sky, and the elite of the planet live on this city, and everybody else, the troglodytes, have to struggle about, claw about on a surface where they breathe this xenite gas that keeps them kind of stupid and emotional and just makes it so hard. How did anybody on this planet somehow have enough whatever to even just design a floating island? But once you get on it, you get away from that gas, you can actually get the full flower of your intellect and so forth. This is kind of like that. You get the higher ones and the lower ones, and then there's everybody on the earth. I don't know if that's more lower ones or something even below the lower ones. I don't. It's not very clear. And they called this floating island of all things Atlantis. Okay, I don't know. The other thing it kind of reminds me of is Laputa from Gulliver's Travels, the third book. The first of Laputa, he goes to all these little people, and the next, Brobdingnag, he goes to this place where all the people are humongous. And then the third, he goes he goes to Laputa and other all these different places, this and that in Japan. Someplace real. All these others are just, totally silly and bogus. Yeah, well, his visit to Japan is extremely brief. He's mostly just stopping off, picking up supplies, and heading on his way. But it's kind of funny to list that part of Gulliver's Travels. And then finally, the fourth, he went to the Hunyans, the land of these, intelligent horses. So, but in this third part, Laputa, it was this floating island. There's this giant magnet that you can kind of pivot the magnet this way and that to make it float this way and that. Or even if you want, you just turn the magnet down and the thing goes crashing down and you can smash a whole city with it. And this was kind of had somewhat the same ability, only not by landing and smashing, but by being lots of armaments and stuff. And, well, it comes crashing down in what ends up being, and I'll just say this, as a kind of a shaggy-dog story. Or should I say a shaggy-dog story, shaggy-dog story. Okay, that's not the only pun there is. Unfortunately, that's the whole thing. So it's not a terribly great story by any means. It's just a little comic short. At any rate, they put the story again onto the book by Jupiter. And the only difference is, if you look at the story, besides taking out the artwork, did I read the blurb? No, the artwork has a blurb to it. It says, with its long-range atomic artillery tripled and this new division of waves regarded to, the Sky Island would be really safe. Okay, well, whatever. Every now and then you get these little breaks in the flow here, which you would put like 2 little stars. Just like to emphasize that there's a break. Okay. And in the book, they're just simply little like space between one paragraph and the next. Other than that, I didn't observe any textual differences. But at any rate, it's kind of neat. It's got the little blurbs, it's got the artwork, and of course the little stars there in all these places. But it seems to be the same other than that as far as I could tell. And like I said, it's the whole thing's wrapped around a pun, or a couple of puns. One's not kind of given away, but the other one I'll leave as an ungiven spoiler. And that is the Shah Guido shaggy-dog story. Anyway, okay, that was the next one to come out after the sea shoot and so forth. So thanks for listening.